D-Lo for boxing. All right, y'all. I don't usually do this, but just today I felt like talking about one of the greats. And I'm not gonna go too in depth about it, but I just been watching a few documentaries and looking at some old fights, and I just want to offer my take and my appreciation on the great Sonny Liston. This is a fighter who was introduced to myself, just like a lot of people my generation and around my generation, as the guy who was the big bully that Muhammad Ali beat. But I just want to say that the man was more than that, and I'm just going to touch on as a fighter. I'm not even going to talk about none of the personal stuff. But as a fighter, this guy seemingly could do it all. Had a great jab, great hook, tremendous power in both hands. If you think about what Mike Tyson was in his prime, think about Mike Tyson bigger, and think about Mike Tyson about 2 or 3 inches taller, with longer reach and being meaner and more disciplined. That to me, that encompasses Sonny Liston somewhat. That leaves out that leaves something to be desired for how good he was. This man was an intimidating force whose opponents went into the fights, in most cases, already conceding defeat, just trying to get through the fight and be able to be recognizable at the end of the fight, or be able to still do some of the same things they did before they went into the fight. That's how powerful and how skilled and how strong this man was in the ring. One of the guys that he fought said that, every time Sonny Liston hit him, he felt like he broke something. They talked about they compared his jab to the reflexes of a snake striking. And there's footage where you can see how quick this man could get out his jab and then follow it up with the strong right hand. Good defensive fighter as well. Wasn't one of those guys that's just gonna take a bunch of shots trying to get in. He had good head movement. He had a high guard, but also you had to fear so much what he had coming back that guys refused to open up against him like they probably planned to do before they got into the ring with him. Sonny Liston is one of those fighters that I feel like history fails to accurately tell his story. And like I said, I'm just talking about as a fighter. There's so much to be said about potential fights he threw rather. So much to be said about the losses to Ali. So much to be said about, how a lot of people didn't want him to win. But I can say this. For a guy who was reportedly, already supposedly past his prime when he really, started making noise in the sport of boxing, he had a phenomenal career. And this is a guy who most historians say was probably 5 to 10 years older than what he was reported to be in. And if that's the case, then that really says something about how great a fighter he was. But one thing I will say about Sonny Liston and his pursuit of the championship was that this man basically waited, you could say, a minimum of 6 years to get his title shot from the time he really should have got it. And what did he do in the meanwhile? He just kept knocking everybody out. He kept, he just lined them up, and he did his job. He repeatedly went in there and was the boss in the ring, and he did the things that was asked of him by his team, regardless of who they put across the ring from him. It wasn't until the fight with Muhammad Ali that he kind of looked beatable again. He lost the fight early in his career, which he avenged by knockout. But the fight with Ali was the first time that this guy looked like he was on a playing field of where it was even close to being equal. And in that case, Ali's athleticism got the better of him. But and a lot of other things. I mean, we don't have to sing Ali's praises here. We all know how great Muhammad Ali was, and especially in the 60s. But my point is that it took a fighter as great as Muhammad Ali to dethrone Sonny Liston. We all know how great Joe Louis was. I think Sonny Liston was almost on par with Joe Louis. And we're talking about some serious greatness there. But nobody really ever brings Sonny Liston's name up when we talk about great heavyweights. We talk about all these guys that fought around the same time he did. Talked about guys that came after him. We talked about guys who were before him. But we never really talk about Sonny Liston. So to me, I feel like that's an injustice. And I think a lot of it has to do with the outside of the ring stuff more than it does with how great he was as a fighter. But that's my 2 cents on it. I'm not gonna hold you. Like I said, I just want to give my respect and basically my appreciation for the great Charles Sonny Liston. May he rest on in peace. D-Lo 404 Boxing. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.